Here is my story. My wife and I married 2 years after dating, and she moved in with me. And a year after we married, she got pregnant and gave birth to a boy. It was one of the happiest moments of my life because I had always longed to be a father. Even before the baby was born, I made everything he would need available. We started shopping for baby stuff after we knew the baby's gender, and I even built his nursery myself. I wanted our child to be received with love and everything to be perfect, so I didn't hold back in spending. During her pregnancy, I cared for her in every possible way. It was difficult because she had those weird cravings, and each time she needed something, I got it for her, even if it was at an odd hour of the night. When the baby came, I was so happy, and I did everything possible to make life comfortable for my wife and child. To make my wife happy, I got her the latest iPhone as her push gift. I worked from morning to night to ensure I put food on the table and provided all their needs, even if it meant neglecting mine. We lived in peace and harmony until the baby was 6 months old. I noticed that my ex-wife started acting weird. There was a particular caller who never took the calls, and most times, she would turn off the phone if the caller didn't stop calling. If she took the call, she'd go outside for it and spend time before she returned, which was very suspicious. The first time I asked about it, she told me it was a wrong number, but the more the caller continued calling, the more I was convinced it wasn't. Then one day, all hell broke loose. I was home that weekend resting inside when someone knocked at the door, and naturally, she went to get the door. Immediately she got to the door, I heard a man raise his voice, and before I could wrap my head around what was going on, she shut the door behind her. I was curious about who it was, especially since I kept calling her name, and she did not respond. When I went outside, I recognized the man that was yelling. It was her ex-husband. I recognized him from the photos she showed me. He was obviously furious and kept yelling at her to let him see his son. My first reaction was to order him off my property, but he said he wasn't leaving until he had seen his son. I was very confused because I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought my ex-wife would say something about the son he was yelling about, but she didn't. Instead, she yelled at him and called him names. She mentioned something about him being a cheat and a liar, and in anger, he called her a bigger liar, and he turned to me with the "I'm shocked you didn't know" look. Without wasting time, he told me that he was the father of the my ex-wife gave birth to, and she was only living with me because I took good care of her. It sounded like a lie, but it wasn't. Even as I typed this, I still feel the hurt I felt that day. It turned out that her ex-husband was telling the truth. I found out that she still met with him, and they got intimate whenever they met, and the reason she stopped taking his calls was because her ex-husband wanted to be part of the baby's life, but she refused, claiming he was a bad influence on the baby. At first, I didn't believe it. I wanted her to tell me he was lying, but she didn't. She started sobbing and even physically attacked him for ruining her life. I was so devastated, and I couldn't even control my tears. After everything I had done for her and the baby, I didn't think she would betray me that way. All that while, I treated her with love, made hard sacrifices, and even built the nursery myself, because I excitedly believed she was pregnant with our child. I still had doubts, so to be sure, we did a DNA test, which confirmed I was not the father of her baby, and I was very heartbroken. Without thinking twice, I kicked her and the baby out of the house. It was a very painful thing to do, especially with her innocent son crying. Funnily enough, she refused to leave that day. She kept begging for mercy and saying that her ex-husband would not help her raise the child and that I was still the child's father, irrespective of what happened. But I still kicked her out. I also collected the car I got for her because it was registered in my name and I was still paying for it. We divorced because I could not just forgive her or pretend nothing happened. Although she begged and called me several times, there was nothing I could do. She used me and was cheating on me with her ex-husband. In the end, I lost her. I lost the connection I had with the baby, and everything else went down the drain. All of the money, time, resources, and sacrifices I made counted for nothing. And although I have nothing on women, I don't think I'll ever trust and fall in love again. As for my ex-wife, she ended up raising the child alone. The last time I heard, her ex-husband had 3 baby mamas, so I guessed she was the fourth. I haven't fully moved on, but I know I'll get there. Oh, V, I know you're still hurting, but you should be glad things turned out this way. If her ex-husband did not show up at your house, you would have probably raised the boy, and in the end, he'd still go back to his father. I'm glad you didn't take her back, and you didn't let her manipulate you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Now, let's move on to the next story of the day. My wife, 31 female, and I, 35 male, were married for 4 years, and I never believed we would live apart until I discovered a shocking truth. From the first time I met my ex-wife, she had always been a yoga lover. Aside from yoga, she was always obsessed with having the perfect body, harnessing her spiritual side, and stuff I never understood. In fact, the first day I met her, she was on her way back from one of her yoga classes with her group of friends, and I liked her instantly. She had just graduated from college, and there was this spark she had that I loved about her. She was full of life, laughed a lot, and everything with her was beautiful. I was eating when she came into the restaurant with her other yoga buddies, and I was forced to pay for their meal to get her number. Something about her pulled me closer to her, and I only felt that way once in a blue moon. After I got her number, I called her immediately, so she could save mine, and when I returned from work that evening, we spoke on the phone. The end of our conversation resulted in us picking a day to eat together and get to know each other, which turned out to be very successful. From our first date, I discovered that we had much in common and similar interests. Like me, my ex-wife believed there was a way to get successful at a very young age and retire at 50. She was open to trying out new ideas and buying courses that could help improve her, and she even had 2 YouTube channels to her name. Aside from my unexplainable attraction for her, my ex-wife was very intelligent. I guess it had to do with her studying business management, but she was also street smart. Even as friends, she always recommended books, seminars, and things that could help us make it early in life, and this alone was a big green flag for me. Whether it was health, personal development, career, or any will of life, my ex-wife always seemed to have everything under control. She was good with everything she did, and I even began to draw motivation from her. I was always looking forward to spending time with her, learning from her, and getting recent updates from her, and because I was one of the few guys who listened to her and praised her for her commitment and discipline, we got close very fast. In a matter of weeks, she knew where I lived, and I knew where she lived, too. Even without dating her, I had imagined what it would feel like to spend the rest of my life with her and how much we would grow. Not to brag, but she was different. She wasn't the regular girl who only thought about buying the next shoes, hair, cloth brand, or makeup. For her, it was how to get a big break and retire for life. She didn't subscribe to the idea of working all her life and enjoying it old age, and I belonged to that school of thought. Eventually, we became good friends, and the more I spent time with her, the more I grew to like her. The good thing was we were both single, and I was open to taking a chance with her. Right from my early teens, I had always loved intelligent girls who would blow me off my feet with their super brains, and I believed my prayers were answered when I met my ex-wife, but I was wrong. We were friends for 7 months before I asked her out. I didn't want to wait any longer before someone else would take her away from me, and from the first month of our relationship, I felt we were made for each other. Months after we started dating, the level at which she influenced me grew too, and many things changed in my life. We were the perfect couple, and every day, I thanked God for meeting her. As of the time we met, I was earning little, but I tried my best to gift her occasionally, even though they weren't expensive. I got her most of those books on business, advertising, and even one popular marketing book. The ads were everywhere. After about 2 years of dating, she got her lucky break. She was contacted to be a business consultant for a top company in our country, which turned things around for us. I worked as a marketer and tried my best to close big deals. Within the first 2 years of dating my ex-wife, I closed deals I could not close in 4 years, and although it wasn't a lot of money, it was a stepping stone for me. Shortly after that, things started to fall into place for us. I improved with marketing, persuading clients, and closing deals. She grew too. We married after dating for 3 years, and our lives continued improving. Before we married, we agreed to not have children until we reached a specific financial goal, and we didn't change the plan. We were driven by early success, and I believed that the same way famous, successful men and women had done it, we could do it too. For the first 3 years of our marriage, we put in a ton of effort, had sleepless nights, brainstormed together, started a business, and even sacrificed many things to achieve our dreams. The only luxury we had was the food we ate and the apartment we lived in. We owned one 2005 model car and invested every money we made from our jobs in the business we were trying to grow. Luckily, we had the most significant break in the 4th year of our marriage. Sales skyrocketed, and even top organizations knew about us. In our 4th year of marriage, we decided to go on a vacation, the first after our small honeymoon vacation. I was so excited about it and happy, because my dreams had become a reality. We were able to move into a bigger and more comfortable apartment, and our business was doing well. We increased the number of our remote staff, and everything could be handled even in our absence. The money was rolling in steadily, and I was glad my ex-wife and I could finally live the life we had been dreaming of. I envisioned our vacation to be mind-blowing, full of intimacy and rekindling our love, but it opened my eyes to a very painful truth that I can't get over to date. While we were on vacation, my ex-wife was still connecting to her yoga classes online. It was just a part of her I had to deal with. She was committed and never missed a day, whether sick or not. On the 3rd day of our vacation, after we had gone out that morning, we returned to the apartment and rested. That afternoon, she said she was going for a walk and asked if I'd join her, but since I was still sleepy, I told her I would stay back and rest. Unfortunately, after she left, I couldn't sleep anymore and couldn't contact her because she didn't go out with her phone. I became bored and decided to play a game on her tablet. I didn't use my phone because I would wander off and spend the whole afternoon working or conversing with my staff. As soon as I started playing the game, a notification popped up, and it was from her yoga instructor. The last message he sent her read, "I love you," and had love emojis at the end, which I thought was odd. At first, I thought her yoga instructor was only being nice to her, but a part of me wanted to learn more. So I clicked on the message, and it opened me to their main WhatsApp chat. What I saw afterward made my heart bleed. I found messages that dated back a year, and there were all forms of voice notes between them. They also exchanged their nudes, said dirty things to each other, and would occasionally make jokes about other members of their yoga class. I could not believe that my ex-wife was cheating on me with her yoga instructor, and she hid it effortlessly. Because we were also so busy on our phones, I never suspected anything fishy was going on. I'd even found out that they were always meeting at different hotels to get intimate, and each time they were together, they made videos of them in bed or in the bathroom together. On that day, I realized that my ex-wife was not obsessed with yoga, but she was obsessed with her yoga instructor. She repeatedly told him she worshipped the ground he walked on and said things to him that she had never told me. According to her messages, he was her spiritual guide and opened her eyes to the real truth. Reading all those weird things and seeing pictures and videos of them together destroyed a part of me. Even if I had been told by a psychic that my wife was cheating or would cheat on me, I would not have believed it. I trusted her with everything, and I wanted more than anything to spend the rest of my life with her. When I had seen enough, I forwarded all the messages, pictures, and videos to my phone and cleared every trace that I had touched her phone. I returned to bed before she returned, but she could tell I was sad about something. She pressed to know what it was, and I lied to her that I had lost a mega deal and felt terrible about it. I pretended to be sick 2 days later, and our vacation was cut short. When we returned, I knew she wouldn't miss her yoga class the next day, and she didn't. An hour after she left that morning, I surprised her at her class, and I asked if I could play her something on their general screen in her presence, and her yoga instructor agreed. Immediately, the first video started playing. Everyone gasped in surprise and turned to her and their yoga instructor. I watched my ex-wife stand there in confusion with tears in her eyes. She had tried to walk closer to me, but ended up running out of the hall in embarrassment. Her yoga instructor tried to hide his shame, but I played the recording too, and everyone saw their messages. It was such a big mess. When I got home, I realized that she had moved some of her things out of our room, and she left a small note which read, "I'm sorry," and that was the end of the road for us. We ended up divorcing and splitting every money we made from the business, and as for her yoga instructor, he was fired, and neither he nor my ex-wife dared show their faces at the facility again. I knew I could survive without her, but despite everything we had achieved together, I still hate her for doing what she did to me. She couldn't even face me to apologize or something. She just dropped a note. We haven't spoken to each other since then, and it's been 2 years now, and I've still been struggling to move on. It's terrible how good men always end up with unappreciative women. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It has happened, and it doesn't make sense for you to keep holding on to the past. Your ex-wife chose to cheat on you with her yoga instructor, and you shouldn't punish yourself for that. I understand she played a significant role in your life, but it's time to let go. I'm happy to hear that you didn't try to make things work, especially since she didn't show any form of remorse. You're stronger than you think. You just need to find your strength again. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gary, and I hope you're all having a fantastic day or evening, wherever you are. In today's story, Opie found out his wife cheated on him with a colleague of hers after he hired a PI. The PI then revealed that Opie's wife and her affair partner had numerous times talked about planning to take Opie's life by poisoning him so they could hide their affair. The next story is an instant revenge story where Opie's wife cheated on him with a guy she met at a bar and then immediately got herpes, and now her life is over. Let's get into today's stories. We got married in the year 2000, had 2 kids, and lived a generally happy life of a working couple. A few years ago, her interest in our relationship started tapering down. Whenever I brought it up, she'd attribute it to her work and the responsibilities of the kids. She'd shower me with some extra attention for a few days and we'd move on. The discovery day was Valentine's Day in 2020. We had planned to cook together at home. When I returned home from work that day, she wasn't there. I checked her location on Find My iPhone, and she was at her favorite restaurant. She returned home drunk later and passed out. I checked her phone and found messages between her and the affair partner. We had shared our respective passcodes with one another. However, she had been very diligent about physically guarding her phone and deleting all their communications right away, but she missed the last few on account of being drunk. Also, it was the first time in years she had left her phone unattended. It usually went everywhere with her, even in the shower. She had been sleeping with her phone under the pillow for the past few years. After some time, I finally had confirmation of the affair and the identity of who the affair partner was and still is. It turned out that he was a colleague of hers. He's married, too. I chose not to confront the wayward spouse right away. I had been developing a growing awareness that she was becoming a masterful and smooth liar. Anytime she needed to explain her whereabouts, she would come up with a perfectly plausible excuse at the spur of the moment. I wasn't expecting anything out of confronting her other than being buried with 1,000 lies, such as it being a harmless flirtation or just a quick one-time indiscretion. I needed to know the depth of her affair. I instinctively knew it pretty much at this point, but I wanted solid data. I hired a private investigator and put some security cameras outside my home to see who was coming and going. The PI obtained the security footage at her favorite restaurant going back over a year. Many times I was able to overhear her talking on her phone at home when she didn't think I was around or within earshot. The information came in through a fire hose. Their affair had been going on for 3.5 years at this point. Wayward spouse and affair partner had been privately gloating about being able to keep it a secret from their respective spouses for this long. Their prevailing sentiment was that if their respective spouses hadn't discovered the truth, everything, including the very affair, had to be their own fault. More details kept coming. Her penchant for unprotected sex, her pregnancy by affair partner, and an abortion she had, as well as their home visits during lunch hours for sex, phone sex when they couldn't meet, and dissing everyone around them. I was shocked by how thoroughly contemptuous she was towards even those of her friends who absolutely adored her. She has such a planet-sized network of them. Other than her brother, parents, and 2 kids, this woman had nothing other than contempt towards every single human being. I've always known her to use superficial charm to get validation, companionship, get her way, or just influence friends to behave to her liking. I was still shell-shocked by discovering the real her, as my understanding of a narcissistic personality was very shallow at the time. The PI gave me names of the other affairs she had had or was still carrying on. She also slept with her boss, among others, as an example. Just when I thought it had been all there was, little did I know that there was a plot twist in the offing. The communications between her and a fair partner started referring to killing a certain somebody by poisoning their food. She suddenly developed a recent penchant for making food for me, even though we had not been talking for weeks at this time. At the first reference to the killing, I stopped consuming anything she cooked for me. I only ate the food intended for the whole family, and even then, I wouldn't consume it if everyone else had already taken their share. The first reference to killing was so subtle that it was almost an animal instinct on my part to take such precautions. I felt I was being silly and paranoid. However, their subtlety soon went out of the window as their frustration mounted and their discussions descended into inflamed arguments. A fair partner was urging her to kill me as soon as possible, and she was frustrated because, in her own words, how can I add poison to the whole food? I immediately canceled my life insurance. My mental health had been tapering down for a while, and I was struggling to maintain my sanity. Nothing more was to be gained by staying the course. So, for the first time in months, I spoke to her. I told her that it was time to start planning for our divorce and that I knew about her and the affair partner. I gave her 4 to 5 quick examples of things that she couldn't believe in her wildest dreams that anyone other than the affair partner and she could have possibly known. I concluded with the assertion that my decision for divorce was 100% final. Moments into the conversation, her eyes went wide and her jaw hit the floor. The whole speech took 2 minutes, and that was the end of a 20-year relationship. It's now been 22 months since the discovery day and 10 since the divorce was fully finalized. My daughter lives with me half the time, and my son lives with my ex-wife full-time. My son had discovered about their affair on his own as he had been to her work and seen them acting extremely familiar with each other. Post-divorce, he asked me if his hunch of the affair was true. I confirmed it, but made sure not to add anything more. He spilled the beans about the affair to my daughter, too. Child support is pretty punishing in the state I live in, and despite making a 6-figure salary, I'm living on what's essentially poverty wages. I focus on physical and mental health, had 2 brief relationships since the divorce, and hope to land a long-term partner. Every morning I wake up and realize I'm alive and sane. My mind gets filled with serenity. I'm at peace with the world for the first time in ages. Wow, Opie, after reading your story, it sounds like your wife is not only a narcissist, but also a full-blown psychopath. Your wife and her affair partner were willing to take you out just to uphold their affair. Your wife and her affair partner honestly sound like monsters, and they both deserve each other. I would recommend finding a way to contact and tell the affair partner's wife if you can. I would also tell your son everything that happened. Your wife has absolutely zero remorse, and your children definitely do not need to be around a dangerous woman like that. Let's see what the comments had to say about the situation. Big Cathead said, "Are you going to report this to the police? It's not conclusive proof of anything, but it is evidence worthy of an investigation." Opie responded by saying, "The evidence is not admissible in court. We don't live together anymore, and I'm not in danger. My main concern is what kind of impact it might have on the kids if the murder plot that is, becomes a piece of public knowledge. As it is, the divorce has been very hard on the kids." Accomplished Milk 816 said, "Wait, did she admit wanting to murder you? Do your kids know that? Did you tell the affair partner's spouse? Did your wife want to keep the marriage?" Opie's response was, "I confronted her with the evidence, and she stayed silent in shocked disbelief. My kids don't know that, and I haven't told them. She wanted to keep the marriage, but I didn't." Now, let's get into today's second story. I'm posting my story today because over the past year and a half, I have been a lurker on here and have read many of other people's stories. I'm trying to get some sort of insight or clarity that would help me in my situation. There are a lot of heartbreaking stories on here, but also some gems. I hope you can take something away from my story, or that it can give you some sort of clarity on your journey through whatever it is you're going through. Back in 2018, at the end of July, my wife left for a quick work trip on a Thursday and flew home Saturday morning. That evening, my wife and I went to my stepdad's birthday dinner, and nothing seemed off or anything. Totally normal. Sunday, we had our typical routine, grocery shopping, errands, and got ready for the work week. The following Monday, when the work week started, everything seemed normal, and we did our usual texting throughout the day. But on my way home from work, she texted me saying, "I think I have a yeast infection, and I'm going to get it checked out." I made a joke saying, "Hopefully it's not an STD, lol." She lolled back, and that was that. A few hours later, before I had seen her, she texted me and said, "Your comment earlier about it being an STD was weird. You don't think I'm cheating on you, do you?" I kind of laughed and texted back, "No, lol." But something about that comment, for her to say that, did put me off a little. Thinking nothing of it, I went back to whatever I was doing. Looking back, this was red flag number one. 2 days went by, and she said that it got worse and that she was going back in. I thought to myself, wow, I feel bad for her because I know she has had something like this mildly before, but never this bad. When she came home from the doctor for the second time, she said she now has thrush and a severe yeast infection. I remembered thinking to myself, what is thrush? And she explained to me how it's a throat infection. I remember joking with her saying, well, if you're sick, stay away from me because I don't want to get sick. And I'm so glad I did stay away. Looking back, all of this was red flag number two. For the next couple of days and into the weekend, she was pretty much bedridden. She called into work and did some work things from home that she could. I remember not getting too close to her those handful of days and just kind of looking at her while she was either in bed or on the couch and just feeling bad. She was clearly sick, and there really wasn't anything I could do. The following week, as she started to feel better, that's when I noticed something was going on with her. One day I came home from work and she was crying on the couch. I asked her what was wrong, and she said that she was going to start seeing a counselor. I was a bit puzzled, but I said, okay, and asked if I was going to go to or if I needed to go. She said no, and that she just hasn't been feeling herself and needed to talk to someone. I said, okay, red flag number three. A few days later, I get out of the shower and she is sitting on the bed crying again. I asked what's going on, and she said to me, is this as good as it gets? Is this what we want? Is this what you want? Is this what I want? Is there anything more to life than this? I remember being a little caught off guard because it took a second to register what she was asking. I didn't really know what to say, and I asked her, what do you mean? She just responded with a never mind, and I can't recount what happened after that. Then on August 14th at 9 p.m., we are getting in bed and she starts crying again. I asked her, what's the matter? And she starts crying even harder. I told her, I know something has been going on these last couple of weeks, and whatever it is, I just want you to know I love you, and whatever it is, we will work through it. She said, I can't tell you. If I tell you, you won't want to work it out. It was at that moment I started to feel the butterflies and adrenaline, or whatever you want to call it, in my stomach. And I said, please tell me. Then she hit me with it. I had a one-night stand. It was in that moment all the red flags, all the little things that were going on in those previous weeks all came together like one big puzzle. Here's what happened. When she was through with work for the day, she went to a bar to have a drink before going back to her hotel. She sent me a picture of the beer she was drinking, and I said the nightly, love you, good night. While she was at the bar, she met a guy with the same name as me. Go figure. She ended up talking to him all night and having a few more drinks. And they left the bar at about 2 in the morning. They went back to his house where she then performed oral. And then they had sex without a condom. Turns out he had herpes and ended up giving it to her. And that yeast infection and thrush in her throat was actually the herpes outbreak. I remember feeling absolutely heartbroken, devastated, shocked, and in disbelief when she told me everything that had happened. I was pretty messed up for a few months following Discovery Day, so much that I had to get on meds for a while to get me straight. I knew something was physically wrong with me because I felt like total crap all the time. And turns out I had a blood pressure of 149/127. No wonder I felt like crap. I would say we had a good marriage. We were everyone's favorite couple. My dad even called us Ken and Barbie. I'm just trying to give you some context because we were not dysfunctional, nor did we have some serious and obvious marital issues. But I guess what happened kind of proves otherwise. I remember when I told some of my close friends and family, everyone had the same wide-eyed look and the same "are you serious" response. It was a total shock to me as well as everyone that knew us. She's been going to a counselor this entire time and digging into everything that happened. The whys, the hows, the whats, all of it. She has told me she doesn't know why out of all the times she's been hit on by guys, why she gave in this time. It doesn't really matter, though, because what's done is done. And all it takes is one time to bring a marriage crumbling down. She did say he made her feel wanted, gave her attention, and I guess validated her by telling her she was beautiful. If that's all it took, she has her own issues to deal with. And unfortunately, she wasn't adult enough to really get them out or say that something was really wrong before it was too late. It's been over a year and a half and we are separated. But this is still a major roadblock for me in my life. I have chosen to walk away from her and our marriage. And I struggle because this is never what I wanted. She wants to stay together and make it work. But for me, the damage is too great. Over this last year and a half, I do think she has tried to do the right things to try to make it work. But with the STD involved, I just can't. With all of what happened and knowing the details, I just can't do it. For me, the disrespect is too great. The humility is too much. And it was an act that was just uncalled for and was so selfish. It's sad because she knows she ruined a perfectly normal marriage and wishes she could take it back and wants a redo. But she made her choices that night. Plenty of them led her down that path. I don't think I'll ever understand how she could leave the bar with him, get in his car, drive with him, go to his house, go inside, go into his bedroom. There are so many gates and red flashing lights and ringing bells and all of that. It's just unbelievable. But she made every one of those choices. I've tried to be aware of my pride and keep it in check. And I ask myself why I can't move forward with her. For me, it comes down to my values and beliefs. And what has happened goes against everything I believe in and stand for due to lots of cognitive dissonances. Then the whole herpes aspect that will never go away and will always be a constant reminder of what she did. And I choose to not put myself at risk of getting it. Mentally and emotionally. It's just too much. Plus, I just don't see her in the same light or view her the same way. I've lost the respect and admiration I had for her. There are a lot of layers to this onion, and it's crazy how something like this can change your entire life physically and emotionally. I hope this helps you in some way. Keep your head up. You still have a life to live. OP, you 100% have every right to feel the way you do. What she did was very selfish, and you should not have to justify to yourself why leaving her was the best idea. I understand that it hurts to know that your wife was capable of doing such things. But remember that she has ultimately revealed to you her true colors. As you mentioned, her STD serves as a reminder of what she did, which is a sign that you should never take her back. You have a long life ahead of you. You should be thankful you have no kids with her or any other ties. You can and will get through this while your wife, on the other hand, will have to live with her actions for the rest of her life. Talk about karma. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so as of yet, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care, Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. In today's story, Opie found out his wife had been cheating on him with a coworker she met at the hospital after he saw a shocking text Opie sent her. Opie then later got sweet revenge on both his wife and the affair partner. Let's get into the story. Seeking guidance and seeking advice, here's the story. My 44 male wife, 43 female, has carried out an emotional affair with a coworker and admitted as much. I don't have any direct knowledge of a physical affair. It has been 6 weeks since D-Day 1. They are in the same tier of middle management at a regional hospital. They work closely together, along with others of the various departments of the hospital. I confronted her after sensing that something was off and noticing a distinct lack of affection or connection in the prior weeks. About us, we are high school sweethearts. We have been together for almost 28 years, married for almost 21. Anniversary is in early August. We have 2 children, 13 female and 10 male. We have had an excellent marriage, best friends, never a complaint or even thought of infidelity. We did everything together and loved it. Following COVID and dealing with the obvious stresses of the pandemic, being that she works in a hospital, patient safety, her safety, our safety, etc., it has taken a toll on her. She took this promotion about 15 months ago. I suggested and recommended to her that she should apply. She was the best internal candidate by far. Once she took the promotion, the extra work came. I was understanding at first, but at a certain point, I could definitely sense that it was a distraction from us. We'd always spend the time after the kids went to bed watching mindless television, but that soon switched to her doing work. I wouldn't have been upset had it not been for the fact that it was always during our time. Some months ago, things were turning around at her work, fully staffed, projects in good flow, to a point where she was kicking ass. I recognized this and complimented her on this every chance. I could sense something was off though when she was too busy to schedule our summer vacation. Further, she was always talking about a fair partner. Initially, I thought nothing of it. In a way, she was making light of a situation, in a difficult marriage and contemplated divorce with other betrayed spouse, as ours was so strong. A little while later, she disclosed that a fair partner was also pursuing another single mother coworker, also in the same tier of management. That didn't pan out. On May 2nd, all talk of a fair partner ceased. This is when things started to feel different. I took notice. 6 weeks ago, I saw over her shoulder, while golfing, a message from a fair partner. That was odd. Later, I confronted her about it, explained the dreams, nightmares that I was having that she was having an affair. I broke down hard. She consoled me and assured me that nothing was happening. The next morning, I confronted her about a fair partner again. I brought up the text messages again, and she said that she couldn't show me any, that she had deleted them. She explained that she knew I would be upset as she was discussing our marriage and her frustrations with me, being upset about the extra workload. She couldn't explain what had or was happening. We went our separate ways that morning. She said she was writing down her thoughts. Today, July 15th, I looked through the cell phone bill. On the same morning that she claimed to be alone, writing down her thoughts, she had a 36-minute phone call with him. Obviously, I didn't know it then, but when we talked in subsequent conversations, I asked if she spoke with him that morning. She said no. Since then, it's been trickle truths, layers after layers revealed about her true feelings, and evidently some lies. For a while, I was getting past the emotional affair. We were having decent conversations. However, after initiating marriage counseling and having 2 sessions, we determined that she needed time and space to determine why she felt like she needed her independence at this time in her lives. She feels alive with the quality and quantity of work, and she knows she is excelling. She doesn't feel connected to me at home. Monday after work, she told me that she loved me but wasn't in love with me anymore and that she is going to explore this in individual counseling. She had one individual counseling session already this week, and following that appointment, she said that the therapist stated that people can fall out of love and that she needed to validate her feelings. Wayward wife validated in session and tearfully admitted again that she is not in love with me anymore. Wayward wife isn't sure if she wants reconciliation or not. She said that she needs more time. She doesn't know how reconciliation would work. She also doesn't know how divorce would work either. We are comfortable in our small town, nice house, 2 great jobs, good support systems, but she only has her dad, advanced onset of Alzheimer's, and I only have my mom. Both their spouses passed 5 years ago. Another inextricable bond of trauma. I love her dad and know what hell it is going to be caring for him. My mom knows wayward wife only as her fourth child, as our families were very close through the years. My siblings and their families love her. Since Monday's bomb, I've been 180 ing and gray rocking to decent effect. She still says good night and goodbye, which I acknowledge, but don't reciprocate directly. No, I love yous. She's been sleeping in the basement since Monday. I know she's crying herself to sleep. I separate myself and read on the porch in the evenings before retiring to bed. The kids are picking up on the signals too. I start individual counseling in 10 days or so. I need advice. Should I share the screenshot with timestamp of the I'm writing down my thoughts on June 4th, as well as the cell phone record that shows the call timestamp and duration? I don't know how it will damage my 180 gray rock work. If I should wait, I need to know why I should hide this information and for how long, or wait until the next confrontation, not initiated by me. Was the call on D-Day a cover your ass call? Was it a breakup call? Was it a let's change how we communicate call? I don't know what I'd do with the information, but I've been considering divorce in light of this new information today. Thank you for reading this far. I found this sub this week and have been reading since Monday night. I'm sorry to all the other betrayed spouses here, and I'm grateful to know that I'm not alone, and I hope that you know that you're not alone either. It's been hell. Let's see what the comments had to say about this situation. Carp Grinder starts us off. Don't wait to get in touch with a divorce attorney. You need to know what steps you should start taking to protect yourself and your children, even if you decide to reconcile. In other words, no, she has already chosen not to reconcile, but she doesn't want to admit it. Hang in there with the gray rock. You can and will be happy again. The Fixer 123456 says the 180 is a good start, but it isn't enough to break her out of the fog. She wants to see if things will work out with a fair partner before making a decision. She believes that you will wait for her during this time. This went further than you think as she deleted those texts. Gather proof if it matters in your jurisdiction. See a divorce attorney and serve her papers. You can always pull them back if you choose to reconcile. Sending strength during this crappy time for you. Now, let's take a look at the update post-op made to see how he handled the situation. Update. First, thank you to everyone who replied and gave me advice or recommendations. Everyone's support via reply or DM has been helpful. Here is an update. Friday came and went without any conversation. She wept herself to sleep and I was somehow able to get a few hours of sleep in the meantime. Saturday morning was tense. At some point, we were in the bedroom together getting ready for the day and out of nowhere she said, I know we need to talk. I'm just not sure when is appropriate and how. She came in for a hug. The first in about a week. I replied that it was her choice on the conversation and reciprocated the hug. We broke the hug eventually and no further physical contact ensued. We took a few steps apart and she started to speak. After a few bullshit sentences, I was sensing it was my time and best opportunity to bring in my evidence about the call to a fair partner on the morning of D-Day. I demanded to know what the content of the conversation was. I demanded to know the physical level of their emotional affair. When I brought this all to light, wayward wife had a mini breakdown. She dumped what would end up being half-truths about the situation. It had gotten physical, but only kissing once, nothing else. The call was to discuss what they were both feeling. I was livid. I continued to press. The one kiss turned into 4 times, then to, I don't know, I don't keep track of it, finally to multiple times weekly. I asked her if I needed to take any STI tests, to which she was visibly shocked and replied no. I pressed her on this multiple times and throughout it was always a defiant no. I'm inclined to believe her on this one. I was able to eventually take her phone and to confirm that everything had been deleted. There were no texts, already expected this, and to check other apps like Messenger. That was the new channel to communicate, she admitted. We had more conversation and arguments about these new truths, and it was clear in this moment that she had no intention of breaking the affair off and that she was in love, limerence, with the affair partner. Whether she could answer that or not, when I asked. During the heat of the moment, I sent a message to the other betrayed spouse and introduced myself along with providing my phone number. She has not contacted me yet. Again, wayward wife flipped out, not because I sent a message to a stranger, but because I was blowing up affair partner's bubble too. I told Wayward Wife that she was no longer welcome in our house and that she would have to stay at her father's while the kids stay with me. She didn't fight that. She offhandedly said I was kicking her out. I replied that that is what she wanted anyway. This was the beginning of her desired separation, but it was on my terms and my call to make. We told the kids the basics of why she was leaving, but no details about the affair. Our son broke down many times throughout the day once we told them. So sad. I have placed a call to a recommended attorney. It's the weekend, so I don't expect a call until Monday. Set up a consultation and see where we go from here. Wayward Wife has not gotten better at concealing anything. She called rather than FaceTime or Messenger call. So I have additional records of them being in touch with one another. She also started looking at Zillow listings in our area. Anything she favorites comes to my inbox, as well as we had that sharing set up from our past. I have also spoken to the other betrayed spouse at length this morning. She was blindsided. I provided a timeline. It synced with a fair partner's story. I provided the details that also synced up, or they corroborated their stories to hide the sexual stuff. I don't know. A fair partner was kicked out of his home too. Her children hate him now. They're much younger than mine. It's all a disaster. I'm not going to inform HR. I don't want to jeopardize the dissolution process and any favorable outcomes for me and the kids by getting her fired. Her mother had a history of deep depression. Wayward Wife also has suffered from depression and anxiety over the years. She isn't thinking clearly, but it is too late for that now, I'm afraid. She will only come crawling back once she realizes a fair partner is just as messed up. I'll be okay. I have a great family and support structure in town. Great job and an amazing boss who is aware of the basics of the issue as I confided in him Thursday. It will hurt and I know there will be much more difficult times ahead, but for now I'll keep up with my running and exercise. Thanks for reading. Thanks again for any insight or further recommendations. Appreciate it. I found this article very helpful and the site content was very good too. There's a URL. So for anyone else in this boat, give it a read. Good luck. Good on UOP for taking a stance and kicking her out. If I were UOP, I would highly recommend telling HR. Their relationship has ultimately destroyed your family as well as the life for your children. I believe they need to pay for the consequences of their actions. Also later in the post, it sounded like you were trying to justify why your wife did what she did. The truth is, there is honestly no justification for anyone cheating regardless of what kind of trauma they went through growing up. I agree with you that you will come crawling back after realizing that both her and her affair partner's wife will be a mess. When she does come crawling back, you know what to do. Stay no contact and continue to have your kids be your main and only focus. Good luck, Opie. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well as comment on what your thoughts are about today's story. I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today, I've got a shocking story about how my wife reunited with her ex-boyfriend and thought it was the start of something new. But what happened next left her begging for mercy. Stay tuned. You won't believe this. My wife was a literate woman, so she really enjoyed writing letters to a couple of pen pals. It was always her thing, and I never questioned her about it. She'd tell me a few things about what her friends were up to, but it was never anything that weird. She was always the one to get the mail to. It came while I was at work, and she never failed to bring it in. I never saw the mail she received. I just assumed she would tell me if anything exciting was happening. My wife got a gym membership. I couldn't believe it, but within 5 months she lost 50 pounds. That is an extreme weight loss, and she earned it. I was really enjoying her new confidence in the bedroom, but our bedroom activities gradually became less frequent. I was pretty bummed that it always seemed like she was focused on something, deep in thought about daily problems, or at the gym. I eventually persuaded her, but it seemed like something was on her mind. I asked her what was up, and she said one of her pen pals was moving to town soon, and she was nervous to meet her in person. I told her she shouldn't worry about it or feel like she has to go. I offered to go with her, and she insisted that wasn't necessary because she was too nervous to change the dynamic of their relationship and was going to keep their relationship to strictly pen pals. As soon as she said this, I suddenly had a flashback of what she told me. before we got married, about an ex-boyfriend she had that was serving time in prison. They were together for several years, and his release date wasn't until that very same year. I swear I nearly had a heart attack. I grabbed my chest and went into the bathroom. My wife was asking me what was wrong, what was going through my head, and I asked her shakily if she was talking about her ex being released from prison. She hesitated to answer, but said yes, like a deflating balloon. She looked super nervous and sweaty. I asked her what else she was hiding from me. She pretended to be innocent and clueless, but I told her I knew her for 8 years, and she wasn't going to get any lies past me. She said that he already got out, and she already saw him several times. Even worse, she could be pregnant and wasn't sure who the father was. I steadied myself from falling over and yelled breathlessly for her to get out. I couldn't even look at her. I couldn't believe she was despicable enough to do this disgusting thing she just admitted to. She pleaded with me not to leave her because she wasn't sure who the father was, and if it was my baby, we should keep our family together. I told her she was nuts for thinking that sleeping with her ex-felon boyfriend was forgivable. We had no idea who the father was, and that was horrible. I eventually got her outside, along with some clothes and crap she owned. She was sitting out there for a while, but when I checked the fifth time, she was gone. I didn't know what she was going to do, but I honestly hoped she wouldn't go to the felon. Over the next 3 months, she tried calling me, leaving me emotional voicemails, and texting to ask for money. She was staying with the felon. She wouldn't admit it was his baby until I told her I wouldn't give her money either way. Then she told me it was his. She said he drank a lot, and she felt like it was only a matter of time until he went back to prison. Well, before he got in trouble with the law again, he got in trouble with her. He slept with several other women and didn't try to be discreet about it at all. He didn't respect her at all, and it was painfully clear he didn't consider her to be anything close to a wife. She started calling me sorrowfully every week. She said she had no idea her life was going to end up like this. She admitted that she blamed herself and her stupid mistake. I told her that admitting she made a mistake, or several, was the first step to making smarter decisions. She asked me what was going to happen to her, and I wish I could have prepared her for what was to come. She was dumped and kicked out by her felon lover, for months pregnant. Shortly after that, he was taken back to prison while hosting a party with illegal things. She told me on a voicemail that she was taken into a women's shelter, but it was first come first serve each night, so sometimes she failed to get there early enough and had to sleep on a park bench. If she couldn't find a new place to live, she was at risk of having her baby taken by Child Protective Services. I was nervous for her, but didn't involve myself too much with it. I knew she was no longer my responsibility, and things have a way of sorting themselves out somehow. I wish she would have been honest and appreciated the new life she created with me. Instead, it's like she wanted to have a relationship with both of us. She made several poor decisions by going behind my back and lying so many times she lost the great life we had together. Wow, Opie, I am so sorry your wife betrayed you and kept in contact with her ex without telling you. Not only that, but she had so many chances to come clean or stop communicating with him. She should have gone to the gym to improve her health and spice up her marriage with you. It's a shame she didn't realize how good she had it before giving it all up. I'm not sure what he was sent to prison for, but usually it's a good idea to consider that fact before jumping into a serious relationship. Thankfully, there are a lot of ways to keep tabs on where a significant other is. It's a shame it's even necessary. A person who's ready to commit to a long-term relationship should have to prove it by dating for a long time while remaining independent. I know life throws all kinds of different situations out there, but that's why it's wise to be slow to move in with someone or get married. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I wish you all the best going forward. Now, let's get into our second story for today. My wife and her friends took 6 months to plan a vacation to the Netherlands without me. I worked a lot, but I encouraged her to go with her friends. None of them had significant others, and this was her thing from the beginning. I wasn't going to tell her no because it was her decision, even though I was her partner. I never thought she put herself in a situation to cheat on me, but I was wrong. She just happened to be communicating with a man from the Netherlands for longer than it took to plan the trip. When I was expecting her home, she called me and told me that as hard as it was for her to do it, she was leaving me. Well, technically, she had already left me. She was going to stay in the Netherlands. I was shocked. Before I could ask many questions, she told me she met someone there and instantly fell in love. She no longer cared for the life she built with me. I couldn't believe what she was saying. She was my wife, and we just talked about conceiving a child, but she took advantage of my money to leave me for someone else. After pressuring her for answers and accusing her of leaving her husband for a stranger, she admitted that she'd been talking with him for almost a year before planning the trip. Our divorce was pretty straightforward. She left me and suddenly moved to a different country, so I got to keep the house and didn't owe her alimony. She called me a month later, sobbing and remorseful. She said AP kicked her out. She had nowhere to go and no way to get a loan. She begged me to help her get back to the country and assured me I'd never hear from her again unless it was to pay me back for the cost of the ticket. I pretended to think about it so she could go on about how stupid she was. It was music to my ears. Then I told her no, I would never help her or speak to her again because she was a horrible person. She wailed in misery as I hung up and blocked her number. Her family called me, confused, 1 week later. They told me they finally got a call from her, and she said some crazy stuff they wanted to confirm with me. After confirming that we did divorce, they asked me if she was actually stranded there. I told them I wasn't sure because she was none of my concern anymore since she left the country to be with AP. They were stunned and silent, and could only ask me if I was sure. I said yes, and they apologized to me, saying they couldn't believe their own daughter was capable of this despicable behavior. They also explained that she told them she was stranded with nowhere to live because I left her there while we were on vacation, which led her into the arms of the man she was staying with, who recently kicked her out. I told them that wasn't true, but it was fine if they didn't believe me because our divorce was final. They were more willing to believe me than her. They said she asked them for a plane ticket home because she didn't have a dime to her name and no connections or approvals for a loan. I was just as disappointed in her as they were, for her poor decisions and complete disrespect for her family. She didn't even care to update them about her life or ask for advice before getting into this situation. They told me they were going to help her, but it would be the last time they ever spoke to her because they were so betrayed and hurt. They planned to disown her like she was so willing to do to them and me. I was glad to hear it, but tried to sound indifferent. It wasn't until another year passed that I actually heard from my ex-wife. She was back in the country, but completely alone. It was February when she left me a voicemail saying she needed me back. She was crying and didn't know where she was going. Call me what you will, I never called her back. We might as well be strangers in life now. I've been healing and building my own fortune. I guess my life would best be compared to Principal Lewis from American Dad. I have hope for the future instead of bitterness for women. I know my experience was crazy, but if I take the time I need to find a good woman worth keeping, it's unlikely to happen again. I mostly live gratefully, without expecting anything while accepting good things with humility. Opie, I am so sorry your wife abandoned you to move in with AP. I know she conspired to leave you for him if they hit it off on the vacation. You can't just leave the life you knew while keeping it secret from everyone and then expect family to be there when you need them. Life decisions bring consequences, so make sure your decisions are as considerate of others as possible. She didn't think anything through and was a fool to think this could turn out well. Chances are it's never a good idea to give up your family for something that might not work out. Having a secret romantic interest while in a marriage is nothing but trouble, and a respectable spouse would never put themselves in that situation. If you're comfortable in your marital home, appreciate who you have and avoid stabbing them in the back. I wish you nothing but the best going forward. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today, I've got an intense story about how my wife ridiculed me and thought she could get away with it. But I fought back in a way that left her begging for mercy. You won't believe what happened next. Dude, your wife's a total smoke show. The words hung in the smoke from the grill, a little too loud. just friendly enough to pass as a tipsy compliment. I tossed another burger on, trying to ignore the way my gut twisted. It was Steve, of course, the one who always pushed a little too far. Sarah laughed, and that familiar clench settled deeper. Of course, she was radiant. Hell, I'd helped design the damn house we were celebrating, but tonight I was just the guy flipping patties. Watching them, the power suits and flirty smiles, I felt like a contractor crashing a Wall Street cocktail hour. Sarah's eyes found mine across the yard, a brief flash of warmth. Don't worry, she mouthed, that playful wink that used to melt me right down to my boots. I'm saving the best wine for just us. I should have felt reassured, I didn't. Sarah wasn't just beautiful, she had this way of lighting up a room, the kind of energy that got her clients, got her promotions. Me, I did solid work, steady, the kind that paid the mortgage on time but never turned heads. Tonight, even in our own damn home, I felt outshined. The rest of the night was a blur. Good food, a few too many beers, folks gushing over the renovation as if Sarah had hammered every nail herself. It was a good party, in theory, so why did I have the nagging feeling that somewhere between the exposed brick and the gleaming kitchen countertops, a tiny crack had just widened? I tried to shake it off, blame it on Steve's comment, or an extra whiskey, but the doubt lingered. We cleared up, just the two of us. The house was quiet now, the buzz of the party replaced by an echoing silence. Damn, that was fun, Sarah said, stretching with a yawn. Yeah, I mumbled, trying to match her smile and failing. I knew I should feel proud. Instead, all I could think about was how damn tired I was of playing the role of supportive husband, the guy on the sidelines, the one who always got the leftover wine. That damn phone became my nemesis. Before, it was just a sleek rectangle on the nightstand, a thing for Sarah to swipe emails on while I pretended to sleep. Now, it was like a loaded gun, the soft glow of the screen a promise of landmines. It started with those late-night vibrations. I'd jolt awake, heart pounding, and find her already rolling over, fumbling an irritated, sorry, work thing. But the name? It wasn't someone from her office, not a client I knew. And it was never just once. A second buzz, followed by that sleepy murmur into the pillow. Then there was the night I couldn't take it anymore. I lay rigid, listening to her breathe, the air thick with that cologne I didn't recognize, sharp, spicy, and way too damn bold. It clung to her, even with her back turned to me. The next morning I almost brought it up. The words hovered between us like stale toast crumbs. So, who's the late-night workaholic? But the look in her eyes stopped me. Tired, sure, but also exhilarated. Like she had a secret. That's when the suspicion settled in, a cold lump in my stomach. The texts became bolder. I'd sneak a look when she was in the shower, heart pounding in my own damn shower stall. Can't stop thinking about last night. Did they mean what I thought they meant? The worst part was I couldn't talk to anyone. Steve's voice echoed in my head, dude, your wife. I pictured their knowing smirks. And Sarah? She was so bright and bubbly these days, humming as she whipped up those fancy dinners. Was I going to be that guy? The jealous husband, the one accusing his wife when all she was doing was killing it at work, right? But that damn phone wouldn't shut up. And the cologne. Oh God, the cologne was everywhere. It was starting to drive me a little insane. Babe, guess what? I'm heading to Chicago this weekend. Huge conference thing, could be amazing for my career. Sarah chirped, popping a cherry tomato in her mouth like it was some kind of prize. There wasn't a cloud in her sky. If only I shared her enthusiasm. Instead, my stomach did that familiar flip-flop thing. That's great, I managed, avoiding her eyes. Chicago. That was way more than some local industry shindig. Later that night, I became an amateur detective. Our closet held few secrets, but tonight it felt like a crime scene. Her side, overflowing with new stuff, power suits, silky things I'd bet my last dollar she never wore to the office. My side, rumpled jeans, flannel collecting dust. The message wasn't subtle. Then I found it, under the bed, not fully hidden, a suitcase. That sleek leather thing was never for office supplies. I knelt, slowly unzipping it enough to peek in. Dress shoes, men's, not mine. My mind raced, fancy networking event. Bullshit. There was nothing on her company calendar, not even a hint of Chicago. Invite only, she'd said, a little smirk in her voice. Yeah, more like, couples not welcome. I wanted to confront her, demand an explanation, but what was I supposed to say? Honey, I don't like the cut of your new dress, or the suspicious way you leave your phone face down. She'd laugh, or worse, get pissed. Easier to close that suitcase, shove it back into the shadows. The neglected fly fishing rod in the corner of the garage mocked me. A quiet weekend by the river suddenly sounded damn appealing. The thing was, deep down, beneath the anger and the hurt, I knew a fight wouldn't change anything. It would just make me the pathetic husband chasing his wife's shadow. And Chicago, well, that felt inevitable. The gym smelled like rubber and desperate ambition. It was never my scene. Too many mirrors, too many grunts, the kind of place where Sarah actually thrived, all sleek ponytail and fierce determination. But there I was, huffing on a treadmill like a beached whale. Looking good, man. A voice broke through my self-pity. Alex, a grinning giant with biceps bigger than my thighs, slapped my back with a force that nearly sent me flying. We'd struck up a weird gym bro friendship, built on spotting each other and making fun of the guys who did curls in the squat rack. Hey, looking leaner yourself, I managed between gasps. Honestly, a few weeks back, I couldn't even keep up with the old lady power walking next to me. Now, there was the tiniest hint of something resembling muscle under this dad bod. Between sets, Alex and I would shoot the breeze. Turns out, he was going through a messy divorce. Turns out, my wife had a conference in Cabo with her personal trainer, he joked darkly. And there it was, that shared language of betrayal, a little too close for comfort. One sticky afternoon, post-workout, the words just slid out, you know. My wife's been super busy too. I tried for casual, failed miserably. Alex squinted at me. Busy. Sarah used to come here all the time. Killer on the Stairmaster. I choked on my protein shake. Used to. Sarah hadn't shown her face around here for months. Those early morning Pilates classes she loved where the rest of the day was a blur. Did Alex know something? Was I an idiot, the last to figure it out? At home, the silence was deafening. Sarah's yoga mat lay abandoned, gathering dust in the corner. Every inch of that perfect house felt like a lie. That night, as I lay in bed next to Sarah, her breathing soft and even, it hit me. It wasn't just about fitness. It was about a whole side of her life, a part of herself she'd stopped sharing with me a long time ago. 2 eggs over easy, bacon extra crispy. Oh hey, honey, you made it. Sarah's voice was like a punch to the gut. I'd pictured her at some swanky conference, power breakfasting with executives. Instead, she was perched at our regular Sunday brunch spot, bright as a damn daisy. Worse, she wasn't alone. Across from her, a guy I'd never seen before was grinning, his hand lingering way too long on hers as he passed the syrup. The laughter that rang out should have been familiar, but it cut through me like a stranger's. A wave of nausea washed over me. I couldn't face her, not with her perfect smile and some random dude playing the adoring boyfriend. I mumbled some crap about forgetting my wallet and stumbled toward the exit, the cheerful platter of brunch fading behind me. Out on the street, I leaned against a brick wall, trying to breathe. Alex's words from our last gym session echoed in my head. Mate, a woman like that needs attention. Was this it? Had Sarah found someone who gave her the attention I couldn't? Someone successful, exciting, someone I wasn't? A flashback hit me, sharp as a slap. Alex's ex-wife, laughing over cocktails with her tanned, personal trainer, while Alex poured his heart out in a sweaty gym. Was I walking the same damn path? Blindsided, clueless, just another pathetic husband about to be left in the dust. Shame and fear twisted in my gut. It wasn't just about Sarah slipping away, it was about me. Had I become so invisible to my own wife that she needed to look elsewhere? You clean up nice. Sarah's approval was a distant memory. Lately, it was more like a quick appraisal than back to her phone. Tonight, I made damn sure she noticed. I stood in front of the mirror, not recognizing the guy staring back. The gym was paying off. There was an edge to my shoulders I hadn't seen in years. I chose the tie she used to love, bright blue. the one she now called a bit much. I polished my shoes till they gleamed. At the office party, the usual crowd milled around the makeshift bar. My tired jokes fell flat until I spotted her, the intern with the bright eyes and a laugh that hadn't been dulled by endless spreadsheets. Her name was, hell, I couldn't remember. Didn't matter. Something shifted in me as I refilled her drink, a recklessness I hadn't felt in a long, long time. She giggled as I told a story, her gaze lingering just that bit too long. Was it my imagination, or was there a flicker of genuine interest? Sarah walked by then. I caught her eye, a silent challenge in my stance. Nice effort, she said, the words more automatic than sincere. It should have hurt, but instead, I felt a surge of something dangerous, something defiant. Maybe I wasn't playing the game well, but Christ, it felt good to be a player again. The rest of the night was messy. Another drink, more whispered conversations with the intern. A part of me screamed that this was pathetic, some sad middle-aged cliché. But a darker part, a resentful and wounded part, whispered back, why not? The cab ride home was a blur. Stepping into our silent house, I knew this wasn't a victory. It was a declaration of war. And the worst part was, I wasn't even sure who I was fighting anymore. It started subtly, a discarded fitness magazine on the kitchen counter, a green smoothie replacing her usual latte. Then, it was full-blown makeover mode. Out went the sensible pantsuits, in came figure-hugging dresses and heels I was pretty sure she couldn't walk in. New year, new me. She'd shirked, a gleam in her eye I hadn't seen in ages. But this wasn't the same glow of conference promotions or closed deals. It was something sharper, fiercer. There was a restless energy about her, a buzzing beneath the perfect makeup. And damn, if it wasn't working. Sarah was turning heads. Even mine. I'd catch myself staring a little too long over breakfast, my traitorous mind racing. Was this all because of me? My stupid little flirtation at the office party, my newfound gym obsession. Had it woken the sleeping tiger? Guilt clawed at me. Confronting her about Mr. Brunch had seemed impossible. But my twisted little act of retaliation now felt like throwing gasoline on a fire. She wasn't just getting fit or revamping her wardrobe, it was like she was reinventing herself. Becoming some shimmering, untouchable version I barely recognized. Late one night, I snuck a peek at her phone. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. No racy texts, just Pinterest boards full of workout inspiration and edgy outfit ideas. Yet, that just made it scarier. Sarah didn't need another man, she was becoming her own damn trophy. And me? I was both horrified and strangely fascinated. A dark, selfish voice whispered, fair play. Wasn't this the vibrant, exciting woman I'd been missing? Even if she was miles away from who I thought I knew, the thrill of the unknown was strangely potent. Girls' night, don't wait up, Sarah trilled, a flurry of silk and perfume. Her excitement buzzed in the air, a sharp, nervous energy that set my teeth on edge. The text to Alex was already typed and waiting on my phone. Fancy a pint? I hesitated, finger hovering over the send button. This wasn't some childish revenge scheme anymore, it was, what the hell was it? Sarah's reflection caught my eye as she shimmied into a dress that screamed. Cocktails, not catching up with the book club. It was my turn for a makeover. The shirt that stretched a little tighter across my chest, a splash of that cologne Sarah used to bury her nose in, now completely ignored. We went through the motions. The kiss on the cheek that felt more like an afterthought than affection, the muttered, have funs, laden with unspoken accusations. The door clicked shut behind her, and the silence roared. Alex met me at our usual dive bar, the one with the sticky tables and too loud jukebox. We didn't have to say much. One look, the clink of beer bottles, and the pact was sealed. Tonight, we weren't drowning our sorrows, we were drowning in a defiant, desperate kind of freedom. Each sip brought a hollow satisfaction. Was I becoming the kind of guy who snuck around? I didn't like the answer. But as the night blurred around the edges, I pushed it away. Sarah was playing her game. Tonight, I was playing mine. And God help us both, neither of us looked ready to fold. The laughter fell brittle between my teeth. 2 martinis in, and girls, seemed less like friends and more like props for a performance. My eyes drifted towards the bar, drawn to the sleek lines, the promise of danger disguised as sophistication. He was there, not in some shadowy corner, but front and center, a spotlight finding him even in the dim hotel lounge. Conference guy, his hand was on my waist now, a touch too possessive, yet the thrill of being wanted, truly wanted, outweighed any discomfort. Then, the world tilted. Across the room, a reflection in the mirrored wall caught my eye. Mark, my breath hitched. He was with her, the intern, her fingers brushing his sleeve with a casual intimacy that ripped through me. It should have been a shock, a final blow. But beneath the stab of betrayal, something else stirred. It wasn't sadness or even anger, but a chilling recognition. We'd become grotesque parodies of ourselves, caught in a twisted dance of deception. Mark's gaze locked onto mine. There was no accusation in his eyes, no plea for understanding. Instead, I saw a hardened resolve, a chilling mirror of my own determination. And that's when I knew we were past the point of no return. Alex's voice broke through the haze. "You guys okay, another round?" he asked, oblivious to the silent war raging across the crowded bar. My hand reached for my untouched drink, the ice already melted. Every instinct said to walk away, to break this ridiculous cycle. But as I touched the rim of the glass, Mark raised his own, a silent toast echoing mine. In that single gesture, we made our choice. Tonight, there would be no surrender, no retreat. Only the bitter taste of lies we refused to let go of. The front door slammed open like a gunshot. The air thrummed with tension, the once cozy living room now a battleground of shattered illusions. "Where the hell have you been?" Sarah's voice cracked, the defiance barely masking a tremor. "Out." I shoved past her, the word laced with a bitterness I could barely contain. "You seem to be the expert on that." This wasn't how it was supposed to go. There were grand speeches in my head, accusations, recriminations. Yet, as we circled each other like wounded predators, the speeches turned into single, jagged words. "You think I don't know?" Sarah's mascara was a warpath down her cheeks. That little intern, parading her around. "Oh, like you're one to talk." My laugh was harsh, humorless. "Mr. Fancy Cocktails, is it? Bet he loved how successful, how independent you were." Hours blurred into a torrent of accusations. Betrayals were laid bare, trust reduced to dust. Every success, every insecurity, was a weapon. We were experts at inflicting wounds we'd nursed for months. Then, somewhere between the sobbed insults and the silence, exhaustion seeped in. We stood in the wreckage of our carefully built home, two strangers linked only by the shared misery we'd created. "I knew you'd never be enough," Sarah whispered, but it lacked venom. It was just an observation. My anger bled out, leaving a hollow ache. "Don't you dare," I started, but the fight was gone. "Don't pretend, it's all my fault." And in that silence, between the tear tracks and the empty bottles, a terrible realization dawned. We weren't fighting for our marriage anymore, not even fighting to win. This was about mutually assured destruction, about proving we could hurt each other as deeply as we'd hurt ourselves. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, a harsh accusation in the silent house. There was no dramatic hangover, just a bone-deep weariness that mimicked the ache in my chest. I expected to feel something, rage, triumph, anything. Instead, there was just a numb emptiness. The scent of coffee usually filled the kitchen, a little ritual of normalcy. Today, the countertop gleamed, spotless and cold. Half-finished mugs sat on the table, remnants of a battle that felt like a lifetime ago. Upstairs, a single suitcase lay on the bed, zipper yawning open. Not the dramatic sweep of clothes flung in fury that I'd imagined, but a calculated selection. Sarah always was efficient, even in leaving. I heard the click of heels on the hardwood, the final twist of the key in the lock. Not a bang, not a scream, but a quiet, definitive click. I wasn't sure if it was my heart or the damn door that shattered. In the aftermath, there were no crowds, no grand declarations. Just me, amidst the wreckage of our home, trying to reconcile the taste of victory with the crushing hollowness of defeat. I'd won, hadn't I? Yet, all that lingered was the bitter taste of ash on my tongue. Did I make her laugh in the end? I couldn't bring myself to ask the interns or the cocktail guys. Didn't matter. Instead of the strong, independent woman I'd resented, I saw Sarah as she must have felt. Lonely, adrift, chasing a reflection she couldn't find. And the sickening realization hit, I'd helped create that. They say revenge is best served cold. What they don't mention is that while it burns your enemy, the flames lick you too. Our love, what was left of it, had curdled into something poisonous. I looked around at the broken pieces, the house that once hummed with life, and knew the truth. We were both losers in this stupid, destructive game. The gym clock blinked in the darkness, 6:15 a.m. It wasn't a punishment anymore, this relentless sweat, the sting of muscles pushed to limit. It was a routine, just another brick in the wall I was carefully rebuilding. The bar scene faded into a hazy memory, along with the bitter taste of too many cheap whiskeys. Alex was a decent enough guy, but those boozy nights had left me hollow. Now, the only guy the first could tolerate was the slightly fitter, more jaded version staring back at me in the locker room mirror. Change wasn't dramatic, didn't come with a flash of inspiration or a triumphant soundtrack. It was the slow stuff. Bins of wilted vegetables dumped out, a repaired leaky faucet that had nagged at me for months, the stack of unread books finally cracked open instead of mindlessly scrolling through my phone. One afternoon, amidst the urban bustle, I saw her. Not on purpose, just a flicker of that familiar blonde hair disappearing into a crowd. Sarah looked thinner, less vibrant. Seeing her no longer sent a jolt through me, but a faint echo of sadness. I didn't know where she was living, who she was laughing with. Frankly, I didn't want to. The rain started that evening, a relentless drizzle. Some old part of me would have found a perverse comfort in its melancholy, a soundtrack for my self-pity. Instead, I pulled on a worn jacket and headed out. Each step washed away another layer of resentment. My anger hadn't vanished, but it had transformed, weathered into something more like understanding. Betrayal was a wound that festered if you fed it, and I was done feeding it. I wasn't looking for some cheesy Hollywood ending, a tearful reunion on a park bench. Hell, I wasn't sure what the ending was supposed to be. But there was a quiet strength in moving on, in refusing to stay trapped in a cycle of pain. The rain soaked through me as I walked, chilling, but oddly invigorating. We'd both lost, both made choices that destroyed what we'd built. But there was a bitter kind of victory in finally letting go, in walking away from the wreckage, in knowing that there was more to life, and to myself, than being a player in a game I never wanted in the first place. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more incredible tales. Don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts and share this video with your friends.